Welcome to the next episode of A Conversation with Carl. Today's guest is someone everyone knows, Anthony Scaramucci. He had a short stint as communication director at the White House back in 2017. He started Skybridge Capital and back in 2005, which is a global investment firm. He's here today to talk about the economy and a little politics. Welcome, Anthony, to the conversation.
Hey, it's great to be on with you, Carl, and congratulations on your new show.
Thank you so much. First question I wanted to start is, where's the shutdown headed?
I think there'll be a stalemate. I think the poly market has it at 11 days, which is a Scaramucci. So I don't know if it'll last 11 days or not, but I think it'll end pretty quickly. And I think the Democrats will win small concessions, but I think that they'll open up the government. They're going to fold to the Republicans here because they're uncoordinated. They lack a narrative. And the real tragedy of the whole thing is I think it's very bad policy. The Republicans have never once said that they're going to repeal Obamacare. They said it in 2017, and then McCain gave them the thumbs down. And so they're not saying it this time. They're just slowly creeping and chipping away at it. But it's super bad policy because when you take people off the healthcare rolls, they end up going to the emergency rooms. And when they go to the emergency rooms, it's $1,500 to fix a strep throat versus $75. So it's just really bad policy. And what you learn about these things, just like with Doge, they cut the people. Then it turns out they got to bring the people back. I mean, this is going back 44 years ago. But just remember, Reagan fired the air traffic controllers, and then it cost the government more money to rehire the air traffic controllers than it would have been to just negotiate the strike. Of course, he won the political point of this. Democrats, man, the best thing Donald Trump has going for him, Charles, in the last decade are the Democrats. They are in complete disarray, and they feel terrible presidential candidates. So there you go.
But, one of the things I was watching is, why didn't the Democrats let this play out? If it would have played out, a lot of people as you said, in the red states would have lost health care. And that would have made the point the Democrats are trying very hard to make.
Yeah. I mean, why can't they make it, though? I mean, so they can't make it because they're fighting with each other, and they can't make it because they've decided that their righteousness is better than winning. There's an expression in a marriage, right? You can be right or you can be married, right? You ever hear that expression?
Yes.
But these guys have decided that
I'm always right.
Yeah, well, exactly. I'm always right. And so I want to cancel 80 million people that voted for Donald Trump. And if you're not purified to the left of me, then I'm going to scold you, and we're going to have some great difficulty, and I can't get the messaging right. Gavin Newsom, who's by and large a centrist, is hated by a very large group of people in his party for bringing people like me or Charlie Kirk or Steve Bannon on his podcast. He's hated.
Well, that's one of the things that I wanted to do is I think that we all need to talk to each other. I think it's when I listen to Bill Maher, he keeps saying, we can't hate on half the country. And that's one of the things that we have to do is we have to learn how to talk to each other. So,
well, you can't do that if you are righteous, and you can't do that. We've raised this crop of people that have been parented. I mean, my generation, frankly, has completely sucked at parenting. So what happened was we were latchkey kids, and our parents let us do whatever the hell we wanted. And so then we decided that was bad parenting. So we took control of the kids, and we gave them like participation trophies for 9th place in soccer. And we helicoptered over them, and we overly feted them. And now they think that they're know-it-all righteous people and they're sanctimonious. And so it was a disaster. It's a combination of lack of civic purpose and no civil service in the country where people are actually serving their government anymore, either through the military, the Peace Corps, or other means, and bad parenting. And now we got this.
Well, you see that in the election in New York for mayor, right? You see that when you're looking at who is supporting Mandami, it's a lot of these kids that have come in from the Midwest to New York, and now they're transplants, and now they're working here, and now they're like, we don't like the system the way it's set up.
Yeah. Well, no, but I mean, he's on to something. Mandami is a very successful campaigner. He's got a great smile. He's a good-looking kid, and he's on to something, which is affordability. But he's also on to something that I think is not being stated clearly, is that the political class of baby boomers suck. Okay, that's what people are not stating, okay? If you were born 1946 to 1964, I'm born in 1964, and you're in the political world, you suck as a human being. Because you got handed a baton from the great generation, and you blew it. You chalked up $37 trillion of deficit spending. You've overpromised and underdelivered. You're inflating away the U.S. dollar to the point where nobody can afford anything anymore. And every decision that you made, we would have been better having a monkey flipping a coin to make the decisions, because at least 50% of the decisions have been right. So Mondami's supporters are telling you, hey guys, you guys actually really suck at what you did. You destroyed the fabric of the country with your nihilism and your general baby boomer consumption-based stupidity. And so let us try it now. Now, his policies are misguided, and he'll probably devolve the city into more chaos. But there's nothing we can do about it. I'm a New Yorker. I'll be here. You're a New Yorker. I mean, as I told Spike Lee, I had dinner with Spike Lee a few nights ago. You and I, Spike, are going to shut the lights off on this city. We're not going anywhere. I don't own a house in Florida. I live here in New York. I want to be here to support New Yorkers.
I used to say that during COVID, when everybody else was leaving, my husband and I, everybody else would say we're going away for 3 months or we're going to go somewhere else with COVID. I would say, I'm here and I'm going to turn the lights off.
Good. Well, that's it. Well, good for you and your husband, because for me, I'm a dyed-in-the-wool New Yorker. I love my city. I love my state. And I've had my business. I live on Long Island because that's where I grew up. I'm a native of Long Island, but I've had my office in New York City for the last 36 years. And I served on Mike Bloomberg's New York City Financial Services Advisory Board. And I'll say something controversial, get everybody upset. If Mondami wins, and I'm an Andrew Cuomo supporter, by the way, a donor to him, and I want Andrew to win. But if Mondami wins and I'm asked to help him, I will help him, okay? Because I don't want the kid to go off the rails with stupid policies that will disenfranchise the corporations and force them to leave the city.
Well,
So
you
there's
need
all
that.
this nonsense about taking people's property and all this Castro Cuban nonsense is ridiculous. Okay. So hopefully there'll be enough smart people around and there's still enough of a process. Okay. But again, Trump has hurt us because Trump is trying to stress the system. Most presidents get the job and say, I'm here as a caretaker for the institution of the presidency. I'm here as a caretaker of the Constitution to uphold the process and the decentralized nature of our government. Trump's not there for that. Trump's there to flex on people. Trump's there to make money for himself, grab himself some attention. And if it works for Donald Trump, great. And if it doesn't work for Donald Trump, he'll deal with you with levels of impunity. So for me, Mondami, these other politicians, what I worry about, they got the Trump playbook now. And so do they use the Trump playbook, or do they stick with a system that has made us prosperous, made us safe, and made it a great country? Not a perfect country, always searching to make it more perfect, to make it more fair and more equitable. I'm not saying that. There's lots of injustices. Life is unfair. You know that, and I know that. So all we can try to do is make it fairer. And what do people really want from their government? They want to feel safe. They want to feel like they have a platform of opportunity. They want to feel that the judicial system is fair and impartial.
Yeah.
And they want some civility, And by the way, Macron is correct. Macron said last week, it was really bizarre and stupid of us to allow these corporations and the Chinese and the Russians to control our social media airwaves unregulated. It was pretty stupid of us, because now we've got these algorithms that are up there pitting one person against the other, creating anxiety, creating stress and hatred and tribalism, which is not in conjunction with the namesake of the country, right? First name of the country is United.
When you're looking at the problem, that social media plays a really big role in dividing us, because if I sit here and look at my algorithm and I'll go look at my daughter's algorithm, they're completely different.
Well, they're completely different, but they're charged. I guarantee your daughter's algorithm is charged. It's meaning it's inciting her to keep scrolling. It's inciting her to respond to assholes that are coming into her commentary, and it's charged. Okay. And so, I guarantee my algorithm's charged. I'm sure yours is. And I'm sure your daughter's is.
Yeah, I mean, she came out of her room the night Charlie Kirk was killed, and she said, "Who's Charlie Kirk?" And I thought that that was fascinating, because she came out and all of a sudden the algorithm got to, send her information that maybe she was or wasn't ready to hear.
I think for the Charlie Kirk situation, which is to me an unspeakable tragedy, you certainly don't want that happening to anybody. I don't believe in political violence. I didn't agree with a lot of the things that Charlie Kirk said. I thought some of the things he said really the commentary about black pilots was just incendiary. I actually know a lot of black pilots. And by the way, Carl, because of the fact that they were black, they probably had to go through 20 extra hoops, okay, to get there. And so to say that they're DEI hires and things like that is not only insensitive, but it's unnecessary. It's not the type of dialogue that we need, but
Well, isn't
nobody should
maybe
die for that, Carl.
yeah,
And so I knew Charlie. I liked him enough. I'm not saying, he was trying to be civil. Van Jones has said that. I see that, but I didn't agree with him, but we're going to kill each other now over
no,
our comments.
can.
It's just not, we're not going in the right direction, but we also don't have a leader at the top that's trying to bring us together. He wants more violence. He wants, just look at what happened at the Ryder Cup. He shows up there, and you got these buffoons in the audience that are now going to throw beer cups at the opposition's wives. I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous. But that's where we are now. But Trump has made a mockery of the institution of the presidency. He's putting Grim Reaper photos up, AI generated photos. He's got him and Netanyahu in a mankini in the Gaza Strip. He's a true moron is what he is, and it's unfortunate that we have a moron running things. And we also have a moron that somehow is tied to Vladimir Putin. So I don't know. Somebody, when those files are eventually opened, long after you and I are gone from here, and they realize what Putin actually had on Trump, people are going to be aghast. How'd you let that buffoon run things? And how did you let him have this yoke over the country and civilization over the last decade? And one of the answers will be, well, we had Democrats because we had really stupid people. We have very dumb and very easily bullied people on the side of the Republicans, but we have really stupid, righteous, disorganized people on the side of the Democrats.
If you were giving advice to the Democrats now, what would you say?
Open the tent. Accept people like me who are pro-democracy and pro-constitution. Open the tent. You're pissed at me because I once supported Donald Trump. I grew up in the middle class as a blue-collar person, and I thought Trump's message was resonating to the people I grew up with. I made a mistake. I didn't think he was going to be that crazy. Democrats will respond to me and say, well, you should have known. You lived in New York. He's a crazy person. Okay, made a mistake. If you've never made a mistake, take a rock and throw it at me. But if you have once, maybe once in your life over the time that you've been here on planet Earth, made a mistake, put the rock down for a second. Okay, and accept that at least I am willing to admit my mistakes and willing to admit my human frailty and my human fallibility and be accepting. I worked with Vice President Harris on the debate prep. They wanted to bring me on the campaign plane. And then I got a call from one of the campaign officials that said, no, we can't bring you on the campaign plane. The hard left component of our coalition that hates your guts. Okay, why do they hate my guts? Well, you were once with Donald Trump. And so you're canceled to us. And so there's a good 15 to 20% of the Democratic coalition that wants to cancel 80 million people that voted for Donald J. Trump. You're nuts. First of all, don't do that. And number two, try to win them back. Try to win them back. So if I were a Democrat, which I'm not, open the tent, okay, and rebrand yourself as a pro-democracy, pro-constitutional process, pro-checks and balances for the decentralized government of our founders and why it's worked, and tell the people the American narrative of why it's worked and it's been a source of constant growth and improvement for the country. And go after these oligarchic jackasses on the side of the Republicans. But they won't do that. So the Republicans are by the way, one thing about the Republicans, Leibowitz, let me fucking tell you something. One thing about the Republicans, they stick together, man.
They do stick together.
They do. When the fight is over in the party, boom. Okay, Bernie Sanders people, no, not going to vote for Hillary Clinton. Okay, then you're going to get Donald Trump. Okay, and that's what happens, and so that's where you are. You're probably sorry you invited me on, though, right? Because it's people are going to be pissed at me for telling you all this, but that's okay.
No, I want you to tell us. This is the whole point. I think we have to. I think that the problem right now is that we're not talking to each other, and I think that we're not listening to each other, and I think that your points are. I've been a booker at many of the networks, and I have always had trouble booking Democrats. I have had easy time booking Republicans. And this is Bill Maher's point that he always makes a lot on his show, that the Republicans show up to have a discussion. And you notice that they couldn't decide when Kamala Harris was running, she couldn't decide if she was going to go to Joe Rogan or not go to Joe Rogan. And there was a whole big discussion. She should have just gone to Joe Rogan and been on his show and defended what she had to, what she had to say was not, tell us what you have to say.
I mean, I'm totally with you. I mean, there's nothing more I can say about that topic. Let's go to another topic. But
Okay.
baby boomers suck, myself included. We have failed the country with the ethos of irresponsible behavior, drunken spending, ridiculous Middle East strategy that failed for 20 years. And we didn't take care of the lower middle class people, particularly the white lower middle class people that Trump enfranchised.
Okay, we'll switch topics. One of the things I know you've talked a lot about being White House communications director. You were only there 11 days. What were the lessons that you learned in that 11 days?
Government's very complicated. Can't run it like a business. Read through the presidential daily brief many times, and the problems are very complicated. A lot of the time from our intelligence agencies, we don't know the answers. It's not Hollywood. It's a 50% chance of this, a 60% chance of that, a 40% chance. We don't know a lot of things. We're shooting in the dark. We're doing our best to make the best decisions that we can. It's easy to get blamed for things because when you are at that level, decisions going to the president or to the office of the presidency are only because 5,000 other people in the government couldn't make the decision. And now you're forced into a box to try to choose between two very difficult vectors. The other thing that I learned is that if you can control the narrative, you're going to win elections. Okay. And Donald Trump understands how to control the narrative. Now, he's not a liked person. If they gave somebody a chance, if Biden had dropped out in September of 23 and they had a primary process and they were able to organize around one candidate who actually had their own staff running their campaign, they could have beaten him. But they gave Kamala Harris, the vice president, 107 days to beat him. And she couldn't do it because she didn't have the name recognition. She didn't have her own staff. And she was very cautious. She's just too cautious. You gotta take risks. You want to be the president? Throw the ball. You want to be the president? Take risks. You want to be the president? You got 107 days. Go on Fox News 108 of the 107 days. Do every podcast. Push yourself. You want to be the president? She wrote in the book that she wanted Pete Buttigieg, but she didn't pick him because he was gay. Okay, now you're playing into Donald Trump's culture war. You just told us that you have a litmus test and a DEI litmus test. And so you're going to take somebody inferior in talent to Pete Buttigieg because Buttigieg's gay. Be the leader, be the bold leader. We have a black woman and a gay man at the top of the table. Oh, America's not ready for that. How do you know? Let's give it a shot. It's way better. Well, Buttigieg is the most talented guy that they have. He's gay. Okay, so the blacks vote. Look at me, 0. He gets a 0 with the blacks. Okay, for now, but that won't be forever. Okay, and so work Buttigieg into the mix, but she didn't do that. That would have been the ballsy move to do. And she didn't do that. And so, look, to me, you don't want to take the risks and you don't want to give people a fair chance, which she did not have a fair chance. He's going to win and you're going to be dealing with him. And now the question is, what's he going to do? Is he going to tip us into martial law? Is he going to revoke elements of the Constitution? Is he going to have a fist fight metaphorically with the Supreme Court? What's he going to do? The court hasn't really gone against him hard yet. The one or two cases where they've gone against him, he's abided to it. But what happens when the tariff case comes up? The tariff case is a clean-cut case. The court should rule against Donald Trump's tariffs. Clarence Thomas is telling you, well, we're not going to use precedent anymore when we make these decisions, right? They're trying to figure out how they're going to twist the decision into a constitutional pretzel to give Trump a victory on the tariffs. If they do that, you won't feel it right away. I don't mean you, Carl. I mean the general population. You won't feel it right away, but you will have lost something in terms of the Constitution because he lost in the district court for a reason. He lost in the appellate court for a reason. Remember, the Supreme Court is taking the case early. They said they're going to hear the case in November, render a decision in December. Okay, and Trump is on the wrong side of this if you actually look at the legal language. So now we'll have to see what the court says about the Donald Trump tariffs, which have been a disaster for the economy, by the way. The economy is about to roll over hard because of them.
What do you think should be going on with the tariffs?
So I'm a believer in surgical tariffs. Okay, I'm not a believer of Bernie Sanders or Donald Trump style tariffs. They're not that protective of workers. If anything, they slow down consumption and they cause job losses. But what I am a believer in is if the Chinese government is teamed up with their private companies and they're dumping merchandise into our marketplace or steel or you pick the product as a result of a subsidy from the government, then the United States, the Europeans have to surgically lift tariffs to make that price a market price again so that our private companies can compete against that co-sponsorship of the private enterprise linked in with the public government. So I'm not for no tariffs. There's no such thing as free trade, okay, because there's always going to be obstacles to trade, but I am for fair trade. And I am for making sure the thing is fair to the American worker. But what Trump's doing, I mean, come on, he comes down on April 2nd, he comes down from Mount Evil like Orange Moses with the tablet. He's like moving we don't even know what's in the tablet. Nobody can make any sense of it.
So how do we go for, like, is this an issue that Democrats can play into or not really? Or where do you see the
They have no narrative. The Democrats have absolutely no narrative. So they have no narrative on the work stoppage, the government closure. They have no narrative on the tariffs. They have one narrative. We hate Donald Trump. He's a fascist. Okay. But 80 million people voted for a fascist then. We hate Donald Trump. We don't like the deportations and we don't like the way he's handling ICE. Okay. But let me tell you something. That polls well for Donald Trump. I don't like it. I'd be in the opposition of it, but it's polling well for Donald Trump. That's telling you that there's no counter narrative. That's telling you there's no moral leader that's getting to a microphone and explaining why people shouldn't like what Donald Trump's doing with ICE. They have xenophobia. They think the jobs are being taken by the immigrants, and they want them deported. Okay? And by the way, Trump has got better political instincts than these people.
Well, when I talk to people who have voted for Trump, one of the things they always say over and over again is he's fighting for us. That's how they feel. They feel he is fighting for them. And that's the word that I hear from them. So I always think that. And then when you ask about the Democrats, they feel the Democrats are not fighting for them.
I think that's true.
Yeah. So I see that. Another thing I found really interesting, why do you get involved in politics?
Well, first of all, I got in politics because I'm stupid. That's number one. And number two, when I was trying to make my way at Goldman Sachs, I was a blue collar kid. I had no connectivity into the world of wealth. And I was a wealth advisor at Goldman. And so one of the ways in was by becoming a political fundraiser. And so there I was donating money, writing checks, raising money. And then the door opened for me. My first job as a volunteer political fundraiser was for Rudy Giuliani. And I wrote a check from Young Republicans for Rudy, $250. And I guess it was 1993. And he won that election. And, it led to George W. Bush and Mitt Romney, Bob Dole. It led to, I gave money to Obama because we went to law school together, and I liked President Obama. I think my proudest political achievement is worked with Andrew Cuomo to get the Marriage Equality Act passed in 2008. I was a Republican donor and I was helping donations to Republican senators. There were four of them. You probably don't remember this, but there were four of them in 2008 that flipped their vote to vote for marriage equality. And so I was part of that. I was very proud of that, but I should have stayed in that lane. What happened to me was I was working for Romney. He lost. I then worked for Jeb Bush. When he lost, Trump invited me into the campaign, and I let my ego get the best of me, and I got sucked into the campaign. And then lo and behold, I ended up working for him, which was a colossal mistake. Those are mistakes that I made. But now I'm here now. I don't even like politics, but I'm here now. And I love my country, and my uncles, my father, all of them were in the U.S. Army. They fought for the country. Two of my uncles fought in World War II, one at the Battle of Bulge, one in Normandy Beach during the invasion. And I think I owe it to my family because I have this unconditional love for this country to tell the truth. And so for me, I'm out there telling the truth. I don't care. My business partners are all pissed at me. They're like, why don't we just shut up? We're making good money and Trump's positive on crypto. Let's just leave it be. But you can't leave it be, because if you leave it be and you don't fight this, it's going to be very bad for people long term.
You just brought up crypto. What do you think about crypto?
Listen, we're in a bull cycle right now. The prices will probably move up, but don't kid yourself. There'll be a 25% correction coming forward. I don't know when. I can't predict it. But just tell people if you own things like Bitcoin, stay in Bitcoin. And if there's a 25% correction, calm yourself down and buy more. Don't get juked out of this stuff. I rode my Bitcoin from 19 to 69,000. It went back to 16,000. People thought I was a joke. It's now at 125,000. I don't know. Who's laughing? Who's laughing now?
You said the economy is going to roll over. What do you see happening to the economy?
Well, if you just look at shipping, you look at the forward shipping of containers into the United States, into the port cities, you can track that 6 months from now. We're looking at the forward shipments, and they're down. They're down substantially. And that's because demand is down, and that's because there's tariff uncertainty, and the corporations that were absorbing the tariffs for the first couple of quarters don't want to do it anymore, and so that means the prices will get pushed to the consumer, which is effectively a tax increase, and that's the whole issue for the court. Is the president allowed to increase taxes on the individual without the support of the Congress? Because a tariff is a taxation. Trump has told a big lie that the companies don't pay the tariffs, the countries do. It's not true. The tariffs are paid at the port by the companies, and then they make a decision to pass it on to the consumer or they eat it, and they can't eat it anymore, and that's going to cause a weakening in the economy.
What do you see is next for you? We'll just wrap it up with that. What's next for you?
What's next for me? I'm going to continue my podcast, The Rest is Politics US. I'm writing a book about the political situation. Will be out next year. I'm doing some teaching. I'm doing some public speaking. And what's next for me is I want to stay in the fight and see where things go. But I have a lifelong and family generational love affair with America. And I'm not saying we're perfect, and I'm not saying things are going as well as I would like them to be right now, but I want to be part of the process. I want to talk to people honestly about what's going on and maybe, help move the needle somehow.
Thank you so much for joining me for a conversation with Anthony Scaramucci. If you enjoy, please subscribe, and I'll see you next time for another conversation with Carl.